Welcome to Northwestern Voices. Today we've got a very special episode because the artist has become the subject.
I'm on the other side of the camera this time.
The hunter has become the hunted.
Is that what I am now? I didn't realize you were hunting our guest this whole time.
No. So the guest today is none other than Caleb Hawn, who is the man behind the scenes and is the man who's always present during all the interviews and is responsible for filming, doing all the audio, editing, posting. He is one half of this podcast. And so first of all, I'd like to say thank you, Caleb.
Oh,
for
this has been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun so far. I think we've got about 10 episodes in or so.
This should be the 11th or 12th. Yeah,
it should be the 11th or 12th. And I think it's, as I said to you when I first approached you about this, I thought this would be a fun project that we could work on together. And so far, it's been that and more.
It's been loads of fun.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for everything else we go into in the future. So.
Yeah, good. So for those of you who don't know Caleb, and Caleb is a young man who grew up in Park Rapids, was homeschooled throughout, right? You never attended any of the public schools or anything like that?
Well, I was in our church's Christian school until I think... was it 7th grade? 6th, 8th? One of those three.
The First Baptist Christian School?
Right. Maybe you count that as homeschooling. I don't know.
I don't count that as homeschooling, but that school then stopped operating around that time, basically, and then
it did. Yeah, as soon as I stopped operating, I was yeah.
And then you went into the homeschool network,
right? Which mostly meant just college. So I mean, there's very little like. My mom's my teacher for the most part. It was
really
like, it was well, yeah, because you take like CLEP tests and stuff, and then you start taking college courses. At least from what I remember, It was straight into, what do you call it? The stuff where you do college before graduating from high school.
Okay. Yeah, that's I know there's a name for that too, but I'm terrible with that, remembering stuff like that. So you actually then completed the bulk of a associate's degree, or what do you have a college degree at this point?
I have an associate's degree.
Okay.
And I got the equivalent of a third year done, although the classes I was taking at that point were so eclectic.
Mm-hmm. So. Okay, so you wouldn't. So in other words, not something that would necessarily lead to a major.
No, I'd have to. Yeah, if I were ever interested in it would only take a couple of years to finish up my bachelor's.
So. Do you feel like that growing up in the homeschool environment? I mean, I know you're not from elementary school, but you know, from let's just say from after you graduate or after the Christian school ceased operations and you kind of went full time on your own. How do you feel about your educational experience now, looking back at it?
Well, the whole thing, I remember my parents sat down with me at one point with a bunch of, like, they had a list of all the classes, everything I'd have to do to be able to get the associate's degree, and they were like, okay, well, if you don't have an idea, then it's a good idea at least just to go for this, so that way you have a springboard if you ever figure it out. I never did. But as far as, like, online college, from what I remember, I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think the teachers online are way more slack than they should have been. Like, it was very easy to get an A. I mean, with online college, it's like they know that you have Google pulled up all the time, like if you want to, so they don't even try to stop you from like looking up things.
You mean on tests and everything too, or
yeah?
Okay.
I guess they've cracked down on that recently, but for the most part, I don't feel like it was. It's not like an in-college experience, and you don't get that community. But as far as I forget what the question was.
Well, I mean, it really wasn't a question. I mean, it was just a general question about how you felt about your educational experience.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't look back on it with any regrets. By the end of it, I was basically like, okay, what classes am I going to have fun with? Mm-hmm. What classes are going to take up my time? So I chose calculus and something else. I don't know. Uh-huh. So, yeah.
But no underwater basket weaving or anything?
None of that. No, they didn't. They didn't offer a lot of that. But I still remember the classes that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed philosophy and some of the New Testament stuff. And even the times that were really hard, like statistics, I had an awful time with. I look back on it with fond memories. Because it helps you learn how to study and stuff.
So, speaking of memories, being a man who was born in this century, right? Which is, I think you're absolutely the first guest on this podcast to have been born in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
What are some of your fond memories of growing up in the Park Rapids area that specifically relate to this area?
Right, the parks here. I don't know if you've ever... Well, obviously there's Heartland Park. I remember going there all the time as a kid.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun going with my friends. And then they have a little train park next to Hugo's.
Oh, yeah.
That's like the majority of my great childhood memories is like me and all my friends. This was before the age of the tablet or whatever. We would go outside and play, and it was amazing.
The age of the tablet, right?
Yeah.
Because I guess even you are not young enough to have been a part of the age of the tablet, right?
No. I mean, I bought a tablet maybe when I was like 13, but at that point, still it was like extremely limited.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of the parks around here, lots of fun, and then obviously going to the beaches, Breezy Point and Nevis Beach and those kinds of things. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of opportunities for that kind of outdoor recreation around here in the summertime, especially, and things like that. So
very idyllic. I remember walking around on 4th of July going into, like, I don't know, Molly Poppins and grabbing some popcorn, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be raised, I guess.
Yeah. It does sort of have a bit of that, Norman Rockwell kind of feel to it in some ways, the old-fashioned Main Street and the candy store and the barber shop and all of that stuff around here. So, and I mean, it's good to see that even someone who grew up entirely in the 21st century, that some of that stuff is still around.
Who knows? You'd have to check in with the kids of today.
I know we're losing it today, but just before we leave that, I kind of wanted to get your thought. You said the age of the tablet. I see, we all see this whole trend of handing a baby essentially a tablet, and so that they can watch these. Oftentimes, I mean, I'll just refer to them. I mean, without being overly critical, but sort of like mindless entertainment. Let's just say.
Sure.
A cartoon baby singing the song with the same tune over and over and over again. I'll use that as an example.
What's it called?
It's the
Little Baby
the
Bum,
Baby Shark
that one.
tune.
Oh yeah.
But what I'm wondering, and this is used sort of as a way of mesmerizing the child.
Mm-hmm. It works.
It does work, right? But as a young man, I'm assuming that your plan would be to start a family someday.
Someday, if I get lucky enough.
If you get lucky enough, right? But what would be sort of like, I don't know, would you be the kind of parent that would use this method? Why or why not?
No. Well, I was talking about this with someone yesterday, actually. Just how much giving a kid a tablet or a phone hurts them.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not all the time. Definitely not like on-demand access.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Where's the balance? What's the right balance there?
I grew up watching like a half hour of VeggieTales every day, and that was like my entertainment.
That was it.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
that was great. I don't think.
What in the world did you do with the rest of your time?
Well, okay, so we had Thomas the Trains and Little People and Legos and all this stuff. And you learn to, I don't know, fill up the time with the things you have. Play outside with action figures or whatever.
Be creative.
I feel like it's a crutch for sure. Obviously.
Yeah.
Like it's. I guess even leaving aside the negative effects it can have on your child's mental health, it's a crutch, and they could easily learn to fill that time with, like, I don't know, getting along with their siblings. I see a lot of kids in Walmart, which is where I work, for the time being,
Mm-hmm.
who are just, I don't know, watching something on their phone and
As they're shopping at, well, as their mom or dad is shopping at Walmart, they're constantly engaged with that cell phone or tablet device. Yeah.
Not to be too mean to the parents either, but
No.
it feels like you could engage with your child. You don't have to be like, please don't talk to me, just watch that kind of thing.
I read this book. I think I talked to you a little bit about it at some point, but it's called Stolen Focus, and how that, a lot of the especially the social media companies, and I guess it's all tied in with YouTube and all that too. They do this intentionally, basically, to try to get you to be constantly focused on these screens, and I'm guilty of it too.
Right.
I mean, I'm not the kind of I don't look at the screen time on the cell phone.
It's probably.
But if I did, it was probably for the best, right? Because we're constantly looking at those, and I think that, like what you said, the contrast between growing up with 30 minutes of television every day versus having the telephone or something stuck in your face for the bulk of the day has a significant impact on the development and potential even of the child. I hate to say that.
Well, yeah, I'm worried because my personal conspiracy theory, I guess, is with I'm gonna sound so old, but TikTok and YouTube Shorts, their whole premise is like less than 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And then
Reels.
Basically, if you do any sort of research into most successful YouTube videos, their job is to like grab you with something big first 5 seconds so you don't click away.
Yeah.
And like Mr. Beast, which is one of the biggest YouTubers out there, just constant information. I feel like that is gonna have a major negative effect on our attention spans.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm someone who likes to listen to 8-hour-long podcasts. I'm not worried about my attention span.
Yeah.
But you can get in the zone where you're just like so bored just because you're used to consuming so much information all at once.
Yeah, and I think though that, like what you said, that you're able to sit down and enjoy and focus on something of that length is a testament to the way that you grew up. I mean, it's a question about child development, really. Is that the fact that you had only 30 minutes of screen time? Over time, you're less susceptible to the whole TikTok phenomena, scrolling through 20 videos in a minute.
Susceptible to
I'm gonna say you're not. I'm saying you're less.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think I am. I'm more aware of what it is. Maybe.
Do you find there to be a correlation between the amount that an adult reads and the amount of screen time that they had as a child? I know you're not an expert on any of these things, but we're on these subjects.
I'm 19. I don't know.
I know you're 19. I'm just trying. Here I'm just using you as a sounding board for some of the questions that I have.
Right. I don't know that many. I feel like I don't know that many adults that read. It's a shame. Yeah, I don't know. That's probably the best answer I can give to that.
That's a fair answer. So, one of the things that you've done, or one of the major things that you've done in your 19 years has been filmmaking, and that's kind of how we got involved in doing this podcast in the first place. Is that your interest in filmmaking? You've made 2 feature-length films. There's a third in the works, right? And several short films. Right?
Yeah.
On the artistic side.
3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think 5 short films, maybe 6, depending on how you count it.
Yeah, and that's just on the artistic side, but then you've also done some videography work as well, and you've got a lot of you've logged a lot of hours behind that camera, right?
Yeah.
So, well, first of all, those films are all available on the Z Take Studios channel, right?
All except, well, most of them. Obviously, the one that's in the works isn't going to be available for a while, and then I have 2 short films on my own channel that aren't on Z Take.
What's your channel?
Just Caleb Hawn.
Caleb Hawn.
Yeah.
It's HAWN.
It is. Yeah.
And by the way, before we forget to say that, what do you think people ought to do when they're watching this video?
I think, so you go outside the video, right? And there's a little button right there. It's got a thumbs up. and YouTube likes it when you click that button.
Yeah.
So if you could click that, and then behind that, there's also a button that'll let you know when we post other videos. And I think you should press that too.
Yeah, that's called the subscribe button.
It's called the subscribe button.
Yeah.
Do it for us, please.
The like and the subscribe buttons. And then,
yeah, you can hit notifications too. So you don't miss a single upload.
Yep, that's the little bell.
Yeah.
Right. And if you like Caleb's shirt and you want to let him know, you can always write a nice comment.
You can comment too.
And that's appreciated as well.
And if you're ever like, hey, look at this cool 19-year-old guy, I'm going to send this to a friend of mine, that would also be nice too.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're trying to do here. You're trying to use it for dating.
No, I think sharing is important. Sharing this video is important.
Hey, you gotta go from multiple different channels, So,
this is the reason I have a dozen YouTube channels.
You should have a channel where you appear as sort of like a cool guy, like a Fonzie type guy.
You're saying I don't?
No, I don't know. You probably have no idea who Fonzie is anyway. All right. So getting back to filmmaking. So what sort of drew you to this as a hobby, a career pursuit? When did you first start to become interested in filmmaking?
I have always been interested in editing. Not to say I'm any good at it, but I love. Well, I would make what were supposed to be funny videos and cut them all together because I had a friend who was really good at editing, and so I at some point, and I'd always been kind of a writer too, even though I hate calling myself a writer. And so at some point I was just like, man, I don't have any video ideas. I don't have anything I want to edit. We had always talked about doing a movie of some kind, so I was finally like, okay, let's buckle down and do it. And at that point I had enough friends and enough perseverance to get through the first project and build a bit of a crew. So,
and that was the intellectual property project. Are you talking about?
That was, yeah. I mean, there's a reason that plot doesn't make any sense. It was just like, let's just make a movie. So,
well, it was a fun movie.
It was very fun.
Yeah,
I watched it a little while ago.
And it was an enjoyable experience to be a part of it too.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I like watching those behind the scenes videos with you.
So. And that was shot entirely with iPhones, I think, right? Or Pixel phones, or cell phone.
It was iPhones at that point.
It was iPhones.
So I didn't have one. I had a Samsung, so I just borrowed all of my friends.
And it's really amazing the quality that you can get off of these cell phone cameras these days, right?
It is. After having filmed on borrowed time with the Google Pixel 6, which at the time was supposed to be pretty much the best smartphone camera you could get, obviously there's quite a difference. It's yeah. I would recommend filming with a cinema camera if you can help it. Yeah.
So, and you did eventually make that jump to purchasing that
long,
very expensive camera
jump. Yeah.
And that was so the first movie was intellectual property, second movie on borrowed time, both of which made debuts at the Park Rapids Theater here, the Park Theater.
Yep, at the theater, and then on borrowed time we also showed at the Armory.
At the Armory, yep.
The coolest premiere of my lifetime, so.
Was
I wish you were there for it.
For OBT?
Yeah, it was really fun. I had everyone there.
Yeah, I know, and I can't remember. I think I was on vacation or something
like that.
I don't remember the reason why, but I was out of town. So, yeah, and that was also a real fun one to work on. We had a beautiful home to work in.
And, yeah. That was great.
Yep, and the sublime Paul Morrell played.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I hang out with Paul a lot. Well,
yeah.
He's at college.
He's a student, yeah. So after you made OBT and intellectual property along with some shorts, you made the decision to step up into a real cinematic camera, right? So what kind of prompted your decision to do that?
Bad judgment.
Okay. Well, I mean, you mean in terms of the amount of money that it cost?
Well, I didn't have a plan exactly. Yeah. I was kind of just like, I'm going to keep on making movies hypothetically, so we'll see what happens. And generally, when I set my mind to something, like saving for something, I'm gonna get it eventually.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I did with the camera. And then the more I kind of looked into it, the more I was like, I bet videography would be, like, as in filming videos, filming
Weddings and
events,
and
yeah.
things. Yeah.
That's gonna be pretty profitable. And yeah, movie making, my perspective has kind of shifted over the last 6 months or so.
Yep.
So it's the primary function of that camera right now is pretty much just to film stuff.
Yep.
So if you need anything filmed,
Yeah.
let me know.
Where do you go if they want to contact you for that?
Probably email me.
Okay. And what's your email address?
Should I say that out loud or no? You can find my YouTube channel, and my email address is on my YouTube channel.
There you go.
Anyway.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm doing with it now. But I'm still planning on, like, still going to write and make films. Just not soon, probably.
Sure. Okay. So, do you look at filmmaking or videography as an end game career?
No.
So what lies beyond?
I'm not sure if I want to say. It's I could see making a movie as some sort of end game. But only in the sense that I feel like you can say a lot with that. And I guess sort of I want to use it to get into the position where I can talk to important people.
Okay.
So that's probably where I'll go with that. But,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That's very cryptic, but
Yeah.
I think it's I like where your head's at with that.
Okay.
So, do you like Park Rapids? I mean, generally speaking, and what would make Park Rapids a more attractive place for young people to live and work?
I like Park Rapids. Not for 6 months out of the year, but I like Park Rapids. Like, once it gets to April, May, and it's still snowing, that's probably the worst time of the year.
Yeah.
But
That's kind of demoralizing.
I feel like we need to work on housing. Like, it was very hard to find an apartment, and it's, like, not super affordable to live here.
I mean, you went out and did it. So
I did.
Hats off to you.
I did, but it's not like Park Rapids doesn't make it easy for you to, like, live here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Let's unpack that a little bit.
Oh, there's just not much in the way of apartments.
Okay.
And what they do have is pretty expensive, and then they don't have lots of, like if you were to get a bachelor's degree, or there's not many places to work here where, like, a master's degree would be useful. You know, there's obviously the hospital, and you could be a lawyer and whatever, but there's not, like, an office building where you can be, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no Acme Corporation here where you could fit into middle management somewhere. And
There are not a lot of cool jobs, I guess.
Okay.
No, there are not a lot of, like, I don't know, city job. No, I keep on misspeaking. Can you tell what I'm trying to say?
I can. I mean, I think when cities in general, they're centers of all different types of industries, and they're also population centers, right? And so it makes sense, I think, for companies and enterprises to be centrally located because they have the access to a far greater labor pool. Whereas, if you're in an area, it'd be tough for a company or something that was looking for people that had master's degrees or advanced degrees or something like that to just plop themselves down in an area like this where you don't have the population to support it necessarily. So it's sort of like a chicken or egg thing, it's what comes first, the people or the jobs, right? Or you build it and they will come, or you come, you appear because there are the human resources to support a business.
I have no doubt that Park Rapids is going to grow a lot more. Especially just within the next 10 years. I mean, we've already, we've gotten an Aldi's, and, it's clearly going to grow, and they're building new apartments right now. So,
Well, and that's gone against some of this. I think some people who have been on the podcast before have said things to the effect that they think it's going to stay about the same, or if it grows, it'll take a very long time for it to grow.
I mean, they probably know more than I do, but I get the sense that if I were to leave and
they
come
might
back,
or they may not. I mean, so.
Yeah, I don't get the sense at all that this is in any way a stagnant or a dying town, I guess.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
Bemidji, maybe. I kind of get that sense with Bemidji, but
oh, really?
not here.
What do you got against Bemidji?
It just seems run down all the time. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Apologies to all
Sorry,
Bemidji
people.
Listeners.
You can move here.
The views of Caleb Hawn do not necessarily reflect the views of management.
That's right. We weren't going to get political here.
All right. So we said before that we've filmed now about 10 or 11 of these episodes. Mm-hmm. And I think in just about every one, with the exception of maybe one, we asked the question at the end of the episode, what advice do you give to young people? Right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times they saw you sitting over there and they're saying, "Oh, you mean like Caleb?" And they were, and they were basically pointing this at you, directing it at you as a young person, as a 19-year-old. So I thought it would be fun to kind of recap some of this advice, and we can just, chew on it a little bit here and see what you thought of it and in what way you could apply it. So starting with Rod Nordberg, okay? So Rod, of course, the filmmaker and historian, he, from episode 1, his advice was, he had 3 pieces. The first one was, he said, stay in school while you can. And I think that's, pretty self-explanatory. You followed that to a certain extent. I think you graduated.
Yeah, I guess most people usually go to college. So I didn't follow that exactly, but...
Okay, and then it says, listen to old folks. Don't necessarily take their advice, but listen.
Fair enough. Okay.
And then his most his lengthiest piece of advice was to say to avoid binary thinking. He said the world is not just so black and white. He said, it's not a series of yes or no, right or wrong, good or bad. There are more choices than just yes or no. Usually there's some alternative to yes or no, right or wrong, good or bad. And thinking this way is good for compromise.
I agree with this sentiment, not necessarily the exact terms, I guess.
Okay.
Because obviously there are binary goods and bads. But,
right.
Generally I think we get into patterns of thinking that sorts ourselves into one team or another, and there's very little in between space. And I think it's good to definitely experiment and you don't need to apply yourself to one side or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think another way to put this, and maybe it's not doing it justice, but is that to think outside the box, right? Yeah. Or I've heard it said, there is no box.
Okay. Sure.
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 That's deep.
All right.
Okay, you thought that was
think outside the box for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, not many people I didn't know that I could pick up a phone and then premiere whatever I record to 100+ people in the local theater.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not that that's a huge accomplishment, but still, you can get away with a lot more than what you think you can.
Yeah,
probably.
I was thinking about this too, and I think that this idea of avoiding non-binary thinking and not falling into that trap is actually used a lot as a plot device in TV and movies and things like that. Like the story will set it up so it seems like there's only 2 choices, where
Breaking Bad did this.
And I was thinking about Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul is great.
And they did that. Well, I think one of the ones I was thinking of is that whole sequence where the brother has. Have you seen the whole episode? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a scene where the brother has created a tape that was incriminating, an audio tape that was incriminating to the I'll call him an anti-hero or protagonist or anti-protagonist or whatever,
Sure.
being Jimmy, right? And I think we're kind of led to think that at that point, what he's going to do is he's going to go to the police, he's going to play it, and he's going to get arrested. But then immediately his partner comes in and they start going over the options and saying, well, actually, no, we can't do that, But there's a third way. There's another thing that we could use this tape for, right?
Yeah.
And that got the audience to think like, I wonder how he's going to do that.
And then,
and it was
chicanery.
Yeah, it was a creative, episode. Yeah. So it was a creative solution, or it was and it was an example of out of the box or non-binary thinking.
I didn't know you watched Better Call Saul. What are your?
Yeah, I'm watching it. I'm watching it now, actually.
Oh, you haven't finished it?
I haven't finished it.
Have you seen Breaking Bad?
Yeah, I saw Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which one do you like more?
I thought Breaking Bad was pretty good. I think it's if it's not the only series that I actually watched all the way through twice. I think it probably is. I think that's the only one I've ever actually watched through.
It might be for me
to
too.
Finish twice.
Yeah.
It's just the writing that's so excellent about it. Of course, there's some things in it that are, inappropriate.
It's rated R. So,
and it's So, but yeah, it's just as far as I think the guy Vince Gilligan is some kind of a writing genius, and
he's great.
He's great. And when I started watching Better Call Saul, I was kind of thinking to myself, well, this is going to be sort of just like just an extension of Breaking Bad. It'll be kind of like Breaking Bad, but it will never actually live up to that.
Right.
But what he did with it, I think, or what I've only got through the first 3 seasons. So I just started the 4th season now.
Okay.
But
4, 5, and 6 are all gold. So.
Yeah. So I thought what he's doing is he's doing something completely different. Even though the characters are the same, I think it's a far more character driven story, even than Breaking Bad was, and I thought that was a pretty character-driven story as well. Especially
the stuff with Mike. Mike has become like my favorite character at this point.
Yeah. But there's less. I feel like there's more scenes in Better Call Saul that could be. It could be done like as a play almost. Like you don't need to have all the expansive sceneries and. I thought there's like a lot more action in Breaking Bad. In the sense that there was more. Violence and more, actual violence.
Right.
Not implied. More visual effects, explosions, the need for different scenes and special effects and things like that. Whereas, I feel like Better Call Saul could actually be, and as a matter of fact, we went to the movie Dial M for Murder. The Hitchcock movie when they played it around Halloween time here in Park Rapids, and we just I went to the movie with my mom, and we were saying that the whole thing basically is shot within a single room, so
really?
It could be a play.
Cool.
And I feel like Better Call Saul is like that too, because there's a lot of extended scenes where it's just dialogue between 2 characters in.
It's a lot slower, but it's very serious.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm really enjoying seeing it. And then of course I always criticize things where they use the legal stuff in there, and I say, well, is this realistic?
I was going to ask you about that.
A lot of I got to say that a lot of it's not, but a lot of it is. And I think they consulted with people, but at the same time, I think if they really did things the way that they're actually done, it wouldn't be as dramatic.
Sure.
And so you have to sort of have a bit of a compromise there when you're doing that. But
lots of people are saying that's like better than Breaking Bad at this point.
I heard that too. And I don't know why I didn't watch it. I think that it's just some random thing. I had no Netflix for many years just because
and it's a spin-off series. It's
a spin-off
how good
series.
Can this really be?
And I can't remember why I subscribed to Netflix because something I wanted to watch. Might have been like Black Mirror or something like that, because they put another episode out or another series of Black Mirror out, and I always give that a shot because I like the first season so much. The rest of them have been sort of disappointing, but I think so. Then I got subscribed to it again, and I just started watching it.
Yeah,
so.
I could gush for ages about Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad and Mike. So
those are great. Okay, so that was just the first one. So let's go to the second one.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
Ed Poitras was the gentleman who had spent a great deal of his life in Korea, working as a Methodist missionary, but also just a worker or working for the Methodist Church there, not necessarily as a missionary. He had extensive experience in Korean language and so on and so forth. A highly educated man, the Yale graduate. He said, find ways that you can be useful for other people. He said, it's easy to become self-absorbed, but you should get into situations for when you are called upon to get beyond yourself.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you going to follow that advice, Kayla?
I will try my best.
All right.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a very it shows a lot about who Ed is when he gives advice like that. You know, I think that's kind of one of the reasons why we entitled this episode "A Life of Service," because it
was a good title.
Yeah, because he's taught. That's basically what it was, and his advice is, for you or for other young people, is to be like him and find a way to be useful for other people. Go live beyond yourself and remember that. It's important to serve others. It's very important. In fact, it's he almost called it the meaning of life. I think.
You definitely like if you're looking for ways to be happy. I don't know. There's a big message of like you have to take care of yourself before you take care of others. And it's
right.
Like oftentimes taking care of other people will take care of yourself.
Yeah.
What's the line? If my sisters listen to this, they'll know. But oftentimes when you're fighting for your friend, you're fighting for yourself. Like, it's good advice.
Okay, Paul Dove, the Northern Light Opera director, founder, lifelong music professor, said, "Keep your mind open and be honest with what your feelings are." And then he goes on to say, "Not everybody has to be the top person." He used the example of an opera singer. So I'm thinking that he's talking about in a production or an organization, not everybody has to be the star, because there's a lot of people behind that star who are making it happen. So he says there's room for everybody. I think I would call that a second discrete piece of advice. And then the third, he said, don't lose the idea of having a vision of what you want to do, but find those people who are going to help you with your vision, and don't have a feeling that you know it all. There are things to learn.
For sure. And that's definitely true when you get into movie making. You have to surround yourself by, that's something I'm just learning now and still trying to figure out. You absolutely have to surround yourself with people who are passionate about getting the project done and who care about the story and who are like with you even leading up to it. When you look into some movies that did very well, you see even the actors are like hanging around when they don't have to be because they really like the story. I think, and then there's also the idea of best idea wins, and that like oftentimes even if you are the writer or director, like you're gonna want to open the floor because other people are gonna have lots of better ideas. And when I was with Paul and John for the majority of the shooting, they had some really great ideas. Really helped me through it. So
you're talking about on the yet untitled future release.
Maybe in the spring, we'll see.
Okay. And I think it's also just that the what Paul's trying to convey here is just to approach life with a sense of humility too. And
which is hard for me. Not naturally very humble, you could say.
Yeah, it's hard to be humble, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's because I'm so great.
Okay,
it's like, man, I'm so great. How could I be humble about this?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's okay. Maybe this is some advice then that would be a good fit for you.
Maybe I should memorize that.
Because Bill Moore says, Bill Moore, the hockey coach. Maybe this is more up your alley. He says, "There's nothing wrong with wanting to be the best." He says,
I liked that one.
Don't blend in and don't be mediocre. You have to be able to fail and come back.
Yeah.
You don't have to drop your desires to fit in with your friends.
Yeah, I would say Well, I agree with basically everything except the last one. Sometimes you do have to drop your friends in order to pursue what you want. But
No, I know that's what he says. He says you don't drop your desires just to fit in with your friends.
oh, I thought you said you don't have to drop your desires just to fit in with your friends. I thought he was
Well,
saying you could do both.
No, I think what he's saying is
Okay.
he's saying, and maybe I didn't word this correctly because I didn't transcribe it correctly from what his
Oh,
thing is.
sure.
But he said basically is if you're gonna do, you have a choice here. You can drop your desires and fit in with your friends, or you can keep your desires and let your friends fall by the wayside. And I think that's what
You
he was
shouldn't do
telling
all
you to
the
do.
time, but still, like,
No.
again, like you said, it's by no means bad to pursue being the best. You should absolutely try to be the best you can be at whatever you choose to do. So.
Yeah, and I also think too that your true friends are going to encourage you to do this.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know,
And that's also a sense of competitiveness too. Like if you don't have that, then I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true. I mean, I don't think that it's an accident that, you know, certain people became hugely successful. I mean, talent can only take you so far, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to have that attitude and the desire and the competitive spirit to drive you to the top, right? And you shouldn't say, well, I just kind of want to be somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Because if you aim low, you'll miss your mark, you miss low. You aim high, you miss your mark, you know,
Second
hit,
highest.
yeah, and so on and so forth, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, Sutamti said, "You are where you are because of the choices you made, or let others make for you."
Yeah.
You have
Yeah,
problems.
that's something. No, not at all. I think a massive problem is not taking full responsibility for the things that happen to you, even for putting yourself in situations. Mm-hmm. There were plenty of things that went wrong with filming that weren't necessarily my fault, but I should have seen coming nonetheless. And if I can keep track of what my mistakes are, then I can figure out how to avoid them in the future.
What do you think about this idea of letting others make choices for you?
Yeah, I think that's most people probably.
Mm-hmm.
Even I feel like college is letting people make choices for you for the most part. It's putting like a delay on unless you go like knowing what you want to do.
Yeah.
Lots of people I know go just to delay their decision for 4 years and end up being influenced by I mean, who knows, their parents, what their friends are doing, that kind of thing. Maybe they get married and that's like what they do. So
You're right.
yeah, no, absolutely. And if you want other people to make decisions for you, that's fine. But
Just get married. No, just kidding.
you're still responsible for that,
Right.
though. You're still responsible for letting that other person have control over your decisions.
Yeah, and it is hard, I think, oftentimes because there are situations where the path of least resistance is just to let somebody else make a choice.
Yeah.
You know,
Where do you want to eat? Oh, I don't care. Where do you want to eat?
right? You have to stand up and fight for yourself. No, but I think Sue's right though when she says you either made the choice or you let somebody else make the choice, and that's where you are. You know, why did you wind up eating at the Good Life tonight? Well, I said I didn't care, and the person I was going with said that's where she wanted to go.
Sure.
Well, that's why you're at the Good Life.
Yeah, keep track of all the things that make you do things so that you're more so that you're well aware of what your influences are and what your decision making process is.
Well, I also think built into that too, there's this admonition not to cede too much authority to others, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think even buried further in that is this idea of knowing yourself and knowing what you want, and make good choices that are going to serve who you are, you know, because the other person doesn't know you as well as you do. You know, and so the choice that they make may not actually be the most fulfilling choice for you, as it, you know, because they'll make that choice on your behalf because they feel that it serves their interests, not necessarily yours.
Well, if you're letting someone else make your decisions, you better know them pretty well and what their goals are. So.
Yeah, right. But it's easy to fall into that trap.
I haven't.
Yeah,
So.
no, but it's good. So just be aware. Know. Be aware.
Okay.
Yeah, roaring lion, right? So,
yeah.
So the other thing she said was, "What entertains you trains you," and what she meant by that was, you know, there are people who, I think she said, they listen to, I'm not going to sound too snooty here to say they listen to classical music and,
Oh, here we go.
eat only gourmet meals. And anyway,
Very
but what I'm saying
entertaining.
is that it's training you, right? So
Right.
if you're spending a lot of time playing Grand Theft Auto,
It might influence a couple of your
it
aggression, maybe.
it might train you in a certain way of thinking, right? Whereas opposed, if you're spending time doing productive things, spending time with friends, family, reading,
Yeah.
making movies, being creative as entertainment, right? Then that's going to actually have a more of a positive influence on your life in general,
Yeah.
all aspects of your life.
Yeah, it definitely. There's a phenomenon where lots of people are listening to true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
I think that's very bad for you. Probably,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, isn't that amazing how
your mental health
so
has
many
gotta
people
be
who like
affected
to
by
listen
that.
to that.
yeah,
And, I mean, I remember I listened to one of those, it must have been 3 or 4 years ago. And I mean, it was one of the most terrible things I ever heard. Like they played a video of, or an audio recording of somebody getting killed and stuff. And I was just listening to that. I was like,
soul destroying if you have one.
yeah, I mean, as an adult, I guess I've seen a lot of stuff like that, just either through work or, gory photos and
Still, but it's entertainment. It's like it's packaged
it's
as
just
an episode.
it's very dark and sort of macabre, there are people who just love to hear about murders all the time.
Yeah, at one point, totally anecdotal, but at
Right.
one point I started like a random Netflix documentary, like the John Wayne Gacy tapes, because
Yeah.
I'd read up on him or something.
Right.
I was like, I can't do this. Like,
Yeah.
this is just like a what do they call it? Torture porn. Basically.
Yeah, right. It's a sick. It's like you take some sort of gratuitous interest in the suffering and destruction of another person.
Yeah, and if that's the kind of thing that entertains you, okay, but
Yeah.
that says a lot about you. Okay.
Sue Tomty, what entertains you trains you.
There you go.
Right.
So you
yeah.
should be entertained by, I don't know.
Well, I also think part of the attraction of that kind of stuff too is that some people they like to, they say, well, I may be a bad person, but I'm not like that. There are people out there who are like so depraved, and
Compare yourself to John Wayne Gacy.
compare yourself to
I'm
them
not
and say,
sure if
at least, maybe I lied to my sister or, I ate too many donuts, but I'm not
at least I'm not eating people.
going around killing people, and just the fascination that there are such people that exist that walk this earth.
Yeah.
Right.
And I fully believe in researching that kind of thing, but again, there's a difference between research and entertainment. So.
Yeah. Okay, so then Sue said, dream big, find a mentor or a path, and see yourself where you want to be.
Nice.
Create the best version of you by learning and growing. Hey,
Seems like the natural way to build yourself.
it does. Okay, then
Sorry, I think it had to be one of the first 3 episodes, and you didn't read it off. I think it was Paul Dove who said, and I still remember this. He said, "Don't sweat the small stuff." And
Yep.
Is that on the list? Have we
it's
gotten
not.
to it yet?
No, I don't
It should
think.
have been on the list. That was my favorite.
Okay, so let's talk about that then.
Yeah, don't
I'm
sweat
just
the
going
small
and
stuff
looking at the
and
list here.
Almost all. No. What he said was don't sweat the small stuff, and almost everything is small stuff. I think that's really important.
Don't sweat the small stuff, and almost everything is small stuff.
Yeah,
Why
absolutely.
words of wisdom? What do you think of those?
I love it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think people are way too high strung. Mm-hmm. Relax. It's okay.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Does any of the small stuff ever kind of keep you up at night?
At this point, I'm so exhausted. I pretty much fall asleep.
You sleep pretty well?
Yeah. No, nothing really keeps me up at night. Yeah, and I think actually after On Borrowed Time, I think I stopped sweating the small stuff. Mm-hmm. Because like it's gonna sound silly, but it was pretty stressful getting that all edited on time and filmed on time, and then figuring out the flights and trips of probably 20 different people all to the premiere, and some of them couldn't make it. And like scheduling for a movie is a nightmare. You have to like make sure everyone's available at the same time on the same day, and if it starts raining, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So yeah, once you go through a bunch of that, it's like, okay, everything is small stuff. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So I try to remove myself from those kinds of things.
You know, I think that's really good. I find that to be true in my own professional life too, which is that when I was younger, I used to think that everything was the end of the world,
Sure.
and that if this happens, then your mind goes right to the worst case scenario, and I think it's something that can really only be addressed with age and experience too, which is just sort of like how things are going to work out,
right?
Things usually do work out, and when they don't, it's not as bad as you imagine it's going to be. Yeah.
I'd say the filming weeks earlier this spring were about like the most stressful things I'd ever gone through, because schedules conflicted, some people quit. It was a nightmare, but yeah, I don't know. You just have to, like you said, it comes with perspective. Like, I've done this before. It's all okay. Be fine.
Okay, Trent Wilcox, the golfer, he said, be balanced and get your knowledge from different things. Try different things to be a more balanced person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're the kind of person who tries different things and tries to engage in new experiences, or do you kind of are you more of a creature of habit?
I don't, not as much as I'd like. I feel like if I were in a more, I don't know, larger community, or if I had more time, I would definitely get into some things. I want to pick up practicing piano again, but as of right now, I have no time for that. So no, definitely.
Now we're getting into some of the, well, actually, no, hold on. I'm going to go back to I'm going through your texts, but I copied some of your texts and they didn't all transfer over here. So
I see.
So Jason Durham,
yes,
he's going to be released, I think, this weekend. His podcast, but Jason Durham. Here. I know. Well, actually, people are going to hear this in the future, so they will have already heard all these podcasts by then. So we don't even have to mention that.
That's why I'm saying dating ourselves.
Okay. Jason Durham.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, who you've all listened to and enjoyed at this point.
Favorite episode. Like and subscribe, comment. Oh, by the way, like, subscribe.
On that and all the other episodes.
Yeah.
Said you're going to meet a lot of people that are more successful than you are.
Oh, I liked this bit, yeah.
But you can still celebrate their successes without having jealousy or feeling like you're less of a person because you're not in that position. That's because you are important and you have an important role in life and have happiness in that spot where you're at, and that's huge.
Yeah, I think that's the reverse side of the be the best at something. Don't be afraid to be, but also don't be too jealous.
Yeah, don't be the one who says, that should have been me and I should have been the one to have,
right,
married the princess or been given the promotion or whatever the case may be, because that's sort of the idea that that resentment is like drinking poison and hoping that it hurts the other person.
Yeah, definitely. Jealousy, I understand it when you're talking about he's just the boss's son, Yeah. But I think most of the time when you're looking at jealousy, it's they work to where they were at. I don't know, justify it. They've earned. Usually society rewards hard work, so.
Yeah. So it's okay to celebrate another person's
absolutely
success without, Mike Swan, the gentleman, said, when you get out of school, look at a field that you really enjoy doing. And when you do something you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work.
Yep. The only problem with that is that it's pretty hard to tell what you want to do when you're 18.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe it is, maybe it's not, you know?
True,
I mean,
yeah.
some people, they're 18, they like hunting and fishing. So, okay, maybe I'll work for the DNR or something.
Maybe
like
you
that,
wanted to be a lawyer at age 13
Yeah.
and you've never
Well.
stopped.
I think I was kind of at the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to go to college and just chill for a few years, figure it out at the end, kind of like the person that you described. Yeah. And then I got a philosophy degree and I started realizing that, hey, there's really nothing useful I can do with this, so I better scramble to figure out something that I can do to pay the bills.
Not much you can do with a philosophy degree.
But I found out later that law and philosophy are very, you know, they're connected in a lot of ways. You know,
Law and ethics, yeah.
Law and
sure.
well, ethics being a branch of philosophy,
Right,
but
yeah.
also I think it's just the logic of argument and stuff like that. It's sort of like a common method that's used in both disciplines.
Yeah.
Logic and reason, things like that. It's sort of foundational to both law and philosophy.
When it's done right.
Yeah, except for postmodern philosophy, but we won't even go there.
Don't need it.
Yeah.
Philosophy was interesting.
So, speaking of law, Al Regala, the former Clearwater County and Pennington County attorney, he had an interesting one. It was very specific and practical. He said, whenever you text or email people, add a salutation. What do you think about that?
Text seems a little too far. I learned how to do the whole salutations bit when I was doing college, so
Yeah.
if it's in a professional setting, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, or an email or something like that.
Yeah, sounds good. Luckily, I've never been in one of those.
You know, I find myself doing it. I like, especially when I'm dealing with, like, say, opposing counsel or you know, some party that I don't have a certain degree of familiarity with. Mm-hmm. I always take the time to say, "Dear Mr. Jones, kind regards." You know,
For sure.
I always put that in there. You know,
Flowery language, learning how to talk to people in the most gentlemanly way possible is probably important.
Well, it's not just that, but it's also, I think, it also follows that rule of, I don't know if it's a rule of handling people. I can't remember because he's got it in different categories, but in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
You mention it every episode.
I do, and
every Sunday whenever I see you.
He says a person's name is the sweetest sound in the English language to that person.
Oh yeah, that has to do with
Yeah.
charisma, doesn't it? Like, you're
Yeah.
charismatic if you say. Well, the thing is, Zach, that
Right, and so when you say it like that, I say, "Oh, he said my name."
yeah.
I say, "Oh, that's interesting. This guy must be really smart because he remembered my name and he's saying my name because that means he thinks I'm important, and I am important. So therefore, I like this person."
I find that pretty slimy. I've never been very charmed by people going like, "Now listen, Caleb."
Right.
I'm like, you know.
Well, okay, that's you though, right?
It is me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think most people are thinking to themselves, if they're not having this specific conversation about using people's names, and
I
if
should
it's
work
happening
on it. Yeah.
subconsciously, the use of a person's name in a conversation when you're dealing with them at arm's length is a way to break the ice and draw the person closer to you.
Artificial charisma. It's great.
Well, it has to come from a place of genuine. I mean, that's the other thing he says, is take a genuine interest in people, right?
There, yeah.
The key to that is the genuine part.
Right.
You can't fake having an interest in something. Well, you can, but it only goes so far, right?
Sure. You don't remember.
Yeah.
You don't remember after a while.
You don't remember after a while, like, what their kids do on, you know, do they do karate or do they play soccer, you know? But
Right.
if you actually care, you'll remember stuff like that.
It's always something you see in a movie when the charismatic guy is going through the room. He's always like, "Hey, Lisa, how's it going? How's your wife?" And
Yeah, and then
Wait,
and
not-
naming.
not wife, but-
Yeah, well, no, well, maybe today. I don't know. I mean,
maybe,
yeah.
who knows?
Yeah, but-
not to say anything about whether that's
Yeah,
here or there.
but no. yeah, the
Always
sort of
walking through a restaurant,
stereotypical guy, like, hey, how you doing? How's your kid? How's your
Jim,
wife?
Bob,
Yeah.
how are you
How's that
guys
golf
doing?
game? You know, like just from
You guys are so funny.
yeah, remembering
Yeah.
things. You know, I think that's an exaggeration, but I do think that sort of technique is actually effective if it's not. I mean, of course, you don't do it in that in that way. I mean, it's an exaggerated way to do it.
I suspected so much.
But you know, I think the fundamental premise of that book is that people are interested in themselves and they're selfish, and so that if anyone else takes an interest in them too, that's showing you internally, subconsciously, that this person is there to serve your interests, and so by helping them, you're really helping yourself.
I see.
But
seems like
it's a very cynical,
depressing. Yeah, cynical is a better word.
Yeah.
But probably very true. Yeah.
Al Regal also said, "Don't be afraid.
Okay.
If you want to do something, go for it.
Yeah.
Why be afraid?
Yeah.
No fear.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah." Have you ever been afraid, Caleb?
All the time. All the time.
Okay. I just got a text from somebody, and it's nothing but Chinese characters. Can you read that?
I think that's legitimate. See if you can give them money.
It says hi, and then there's a bunch of Chinese characters, and it says in the middle Alice, and then the rest of it is Chinese characters.
Just ask them if they want some money.
Yeah. Yeah, here's my bank account. Just take out whatever you want. Here's my date of birth, my social security number, my address. Yeah, exactly. Here's a current photo of me. Here's, I was just filling out this form for health insurance, and they ask you these crazy questions like, which car did you buy in or in 2015? And they give you these 5 choices. It's sort of like,
the worst thing you've done without telling anyone?
Yeah. Wow. These are verifiable things, right? These are verifiable facts. Okay. Be communicative with people. Be more interpersonal.
Yeah. I'm working on it. I'm working on being more interpersonal or charismatic, as you might say.
Yep. You got to be a people person.
It's a long journey.
You got to be a people person.
Yeah.
Well, it is a long journey, but
self-improvement is very important.
Al said, before you know it, you'll be old.
Yeah, that's scary.
So you have to carpe diem, right? Seize the day.
What's old anymore? Is it 40 something?
No,
50 something.
Old guy would be somewhere around 90.
That's pretty old.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're like if you're in your 40s,
you're middle aged.
Like you're sort of like you're still technically a young man.
Young, 70 would be middle age.
70 would be around middle age. Yeah.
Because you're in the middle between 0 and 90.
You're in the mid. Well, no. You're in the middle between 0 and 140 if you're 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd you do it, Matt?
Your logic isn't tracking here. Oh no.
Caleb, those are the pieces of advice that people have given to young people. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Okay. First question is going to be, what advice would you give to young people?
I am a young person.
To young people who are younger than you.
Younger than me.
Even, they do exist, They're being born in the hospital today.
I suppose they do. Not our hospital. Well, I feel like when you get into teenage years, you're like supposed to be very rebellious. You're like experimenting a lot. But a lot of times when I see rebellion, it's a lot of like going out with friends and like drinking or smoking or whatever, or like doing the opposite of what your parents tell you, which like it's rebelling against your parents, but you're not like you're still in with the crowd. Like your friends are still the crowd. You're just fitting in with someone else instead of your parents. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think real rebellion is just learning to think for yourself and taking responsibility for your own decisions. I think that's probably important. I think a lot of the rebellion is pretty childish, and it's not the coolest way you could go about it. I don't. That's probably not a good way of phrasing. Maybe you
I
could,
like that, actually,
Maybe you
yeah.
could refine the thought.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think what you're kind of suggesting, this idea that there's an actual conformity to the traditional rebellion.
Oh, for
right?
sure. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't rebel by yourself. You rebel with a bunch of other people.
You
that are
rebel with a
doing the
bunch of
same
other people,
thing.
and it's all very predictable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your parents are gonna sit there and tell you don't drink and don't smoke, and then you're gonna drink and smoke, right? And that's rebellion, and that kind of rebellion goes on, all across America.
And it's boring.
and
it's
beyond.
predictable.
It's boring and it's predictable.
Yeah.
But true rebellion strikes at the heart of your parents' worst fears. No.
I mean, maybe sometimes. Like, it depends.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think absolutely thinking for yourself, analyzing what you think and believe, and
Yeah.
taking responsibility for all of your own actions.
Well, in a way, that's not really as much of being a rebel as it is being a maverick, if you think of it that way.
Well, that's cooler, isn't it?
I think so. Hey, it's a good show title. Maverick Filmmaker, Caleb Hawn.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
Be a maverick instead of a rebel.
There you go.
Now, the final question then is I'll ask is so what's good for the goose is good for the gander. What advice would you give to older people?
I don't have advice for older people. I feel like I need to fill in the silence here.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I really like all of the old people in our church. Well, I really like the old people that I talk to in our church.
Right.
Like the ones that are invested, not specifically in me, but are invested in like the younger people, like Sunday school teachers and like almost grandparents to young people. I feel like I'm not doing this very well. Shoot, what is some advice to older people? I don't know.
Well,
it's not. Shoot, I can't say anything without sounding condescending. What advice would you have for older people?
What I was going to say is that what I was kind of to tease out, I think what you were getting at with what you're saying about the older people in the church is that they shouldn't be afraid to get out and share what they have with others and teach younger people and be involved with them more than maybe than they currently do, or like you talk. I mean, I think part of just having these conversations with some of the older people that we've had in our podcast is you learn that these people are very interesting. They've done a lot of things, and you can learn from them.
Right. But old people can be very unapproachable. I worked at a job where I was working every day with older people, and they were some of the meanest, cruelest people I'd ever met.
Yeah.
Like, people I couldn't tolerate.
Really?
They were unapproachable.
Yeah.
They were super crabby. They were super uptight.
Yeah.
Like, that's a stereotype, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, if you're friendly to people, you won't fit into that stereotype at all. You'll fit into the grandpa stereotype, which is a lot better. So.
Well, they weren't all like that. So I mean, maybe that's the idea.
You're right.
Is
There were
that,
3 that weren't.
Yeah. Maybe the idea is that, as an older person, it's actually going to be beneficial for your life. I mean, it's almost like that quote that one of the quotes that we talked about with Trent from Lord Cook, where he talked about the definition of an unhappy man is one of the definitions was a person who knoweth but teacheth not. Because if you've got knowledge and you've got experience and wisdom and everything like that, and you keep it all to yourself and bottle it up, that can actually have the effect of making you an unhappy person. Whereas if you do things like teach in Sunday school, or just work with younger people and share some of that knowledge, wisdom, and experience with others, not only is it going to benefit them, but it's also the people who are the children or the younger people that you're helping, but it's also going to ultimately have the effect of
it's good for
your soul, yeah. And your happiness.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
I think that's kind of what you were getting at.
Yeah, there are a lot of other things, but again, like, what's the point?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That was good, though. I like that.
Do you have any other comments for us today, Caleb?
I like this podcast.
Yeah.
What do you see the future? The podcast, though, there's something you can do to tell us that. And you don't even have to leave a comment.
Smash that subscribe button.
Yeah, there are 2 ways. No, there are 3 ways you can let us know if you like this video. Yeah. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah. Or you can show up at Caleb's apartment, and his address is
dox me.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see where this goes, though. I'm super happy with it, and Yeah, I'm still learning. So here, I'm actually on here to apologize for the mistakes I've made as far as editing goes.
Yeah. And I think it'd be good from time to time to check back in with you, Caleb, because we're gonna continue to get.
Don't stop asking
these
the
advices.
questions. Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And I'm very grateful and happy to be working with you on the podcast. So
I'm very happy that you started it.
again, thank you, Caleb Hawn, and thanks for being here today. And let's have some more success with the podcast. Goodbye.